spitter black braid.
Spider.
What? Did I say spitter? Fuck.
I am the world's lousiest arsonist. I just cannot get it done. Yeah. Coffee was shooting out all over the place, and there was this like this cleaning lady, and she was like like screaming at me, and I was like, "What dastardly person did this?" She knew it was me.
They don't exist. They are a
Virtual
restaurant.
What is it? Well, you met someone that you're back on a heel. Goody. Is that too much? Don't turn it up.
If you must fall, use jazz hands. That's always my favorite.
It's called like stick a dildo up the ass of Satan or something.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.
It takes a long time for these two little people to go through 5 sandwiches. It's
Well, I don't think we've talked about this, but what about when we freaking ordered from Toasted Cheese?
I thought it was thrilled cheese.
Or Thrilled Cheese.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, it's Thrilled Cheese.
Thrilled cheese.
We found it on Uber Eats, ordered it one night. We kind of have this thing on Wednesday, hump nights, carry out, whatever. Watch a movie.
Naked. Sorry, had to say it.
May or may not be.
Yeah.
We found them and the sandwiches were really good. They only had about 5 or 6 sandwiches, a couple sides, drinks.
Yeah,
the sandwiches were good.
This is weird.
And so we thought, well,
let's go eat there.
Well, maybe we'll just go pick it up or eat there ourselves rather than, go through Uber Eats. So I went online, I found their website, and it actually is cheaper if you order right through Thrilled Cheese. They don't exist. They are a virtual restaurant. And we're trying to figure out how this works. And it basically, on their website, says that they basically rent space in existing restaurants.
Could we get some comments? Could somebody explain this to me? So, like, are you roaming around with your pots and pans going from place to place? Like this week we're in the back of an IHOP. Next week we're in the back of a sub shop. How does it work? A virtual restaurant?
And it's so wild. Like the guy came with a bag and we were trying to figure out but it was just a plain white bag with a sticker that said Thrilled Cheese. That was it. And I got the girls in my office were so intrigued they ordered from them one day and they were all agreed it was very good.
Where does it come from?
We don't know.
Yeah.
Possibly somebody's house. We don't know. Anyway.
Very odd. Yeah.
But that's my food stance for today.
Thrilled cheese.
Oh.
So I wrote some music reviews this week that I stuck up on our Instagram, which is instagram.com/Snaggletooth Decay. And as I finished writing probably like my 1500th review that I've written.
Let me digress just a minute here. I did like when you said that it was basically like once you had digested music for a period of time and it just needed to come out. I liked that too. So basically we're getting his music poop.
Like nobody gives a shit. Right? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I was trying to think, what are my reviews like? How would I encapsulate my reviews? And I came up with, I think my reviews are like an out-of-date GPS system in your car. So, you get in a car and it's like an older car and things kind of back from the Price Club era, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of your phone. So how are Mark's reviews like a busted GPS?
Oh boy.
We're going to take some strange detours. I may wander into some topics that make you uncomfortable and you want to roll up your windows. I may repeat myself a few times. And it will not be the most efficient, quick, or direct route, but we will figure out if it's good or not eventually. So there you go. The out-of-date GPS reviewer. So I just wanted to make a quick announcement.
Yeah.
Some people have expressed the opinion that maybe we're too far from the camera.
Yeah.
I personally would like you to be able to see Lemmy in all his detail. But if you do need help, I did pick these up for you. So I'm never too busy. So here you go. We'll put them right on the camera. Always thinking of you. Anyway, so why don't you start over the GPS thing?
Okay, so when you were talking about the busted GPS, it made me triggered for this woman who said she had a state-of-the-art GPS who came to our office. Now, I work in a doctor's office. It's kind of in a shopping center. And I don't know if you ever pulled into a shopping center, but your GPS will suddenly lose its mind. It just can't.
Because they're always changing it around, I think.
And it's not really a road. I mean, it's a...
Yeah.
it's off map and the GPS gets confused. So, but we've figured out that people who use like their phone GPS, 90% of the people, if they come through and they use Google, which most people do, or MapQuest, it tells you to go left. But you need to come to the right. The left are the shops, the right is the professional side. So I always tell people, small disclaimer, your GPS is going to tell you to go to the left. Don't listen to it, go to the right. I tell almost every new patient that calls. So I told this patient that, trying to save them from calling us and being
Getting lost. Yeah.
Which happens all the time.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I have a state-of-the-art GPS in my car. And I'm like, okay. So when it tells you to go left, go right. So for some reason, she decided, she remembered what I said, and her GPS did tell her to go right, but for some inexplicable reason, she went to the left.
That's dumb.
So she called lost, and when she got in to the office, she was hopping mad, saying, I don't know why you say that to people. I have a state-of-the-art GPS. And I felt like saying, then why didn't you listen to it, A? And B, I told you don't go left, go right. So why did you go left? She was so angry with me.
You insulted her GPS. That's really what the problem was.
I got her lost by trying to give her thoughtful advice. And she was, you should not tell people that. Okay, well, everybody gets lost, and we're kind of annoyed with fishing people out of the shopping center. So
she won't stand for bologna. Well, speaking of that, why is bologna the only deli meat that gets treated with such disrespect? Somebody calls out of work, you're not going to hear somebody saying, well, I'm not buying this must have caught a virus pastrami. He left his wife and said there isn't anyone else, but personally I think that's a bunch of thinly sliced pimento loaf.
Get the Reuben sandwich out of here.
God, bologna just gets the bum rap. I don't know. It's always the cheap food that gets the bad rap. You know what I mean? Like, what am I, chopped liver?
Right. Yeah. Chopped liver is one of the cheapest things you can buy. I've never even had chopped liver.
Joe Rogan. Oh, I was watching Joe Rogan one time, and Joe Rogan said that his dog's favorite treat, he has like pit bulls or something, is raw liver. So I thought, cool, my dogs will eat that. And it's probably cheap. So I got some raw liver and I put it out for the dogs, and they were like, that's not cooked. What the fuck? So
what do you think we are, wild animals?
Yeah, exactly. After I cooked it, they had it. And I had a little bit too. It was okay. But I was like, I guess my dogs are too refined for the Joe Rogan diet, dog diet. But I mean, I'm telling you, all right.
Well, the worst thing, my son, for some reason, always used to watch movies, even though we had HBO and stuff. He would watch movies on a local network that felt the need to edit out curse words. And how they edited them out was they would put in other words, but they always chose like really dumb stuff. I think they would have done better just to cut it out or bleep it out or something, instead of being on a plane with motherfucking snakes, you were on a plane with Monday to Friday snakes. And I'm like,
yeah, I have a theory about that. And the young people might not know. Excuse me. I have a theory about that. The young people might not have experienced this because this was kind of a network thing that happened in the 80s and 90s type of thing, when they would edit a movie out. My theory is that they only had an hour to do all the edits. In fact, it was like tick, 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 because Weird Science edited was hysterical. The stuff they chose to go in. For some reason, the part when he's in the bar with all those old black guys, and he says, "Girl, kick my nuts, man." The real movie says, "In the family jewels," he asked them, right? They edited it and they said, "In the flippin' gizzard." Is that a thing?
Family Jules, that sounds so much.
It was so stupid. It was so stupid.
Jules sounds so much more innocuous.
It was comedy gold.
Gizzard.
It was comedy gold.
Well, the part that got us was one day I was, wandering through and I paused to see what he was watching, and this guy was like, "Yeah, well, you're a casserole, Ralph," instead of asshole. So from then on, my son and I would call each other casseroles randomly when we were mad at each other.
I'm going to get all the food jokes out now. I don't think this material is really going to cut the mustard, I mean, you'll always be the apple of my eye, but the proof is in the pudding.
Ugh.
I know our viewers think that we're just two peas in a pod, but still, and don't call it sour grapes, okay? They may just have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I appreciate the comments and input, but too many cooks spoil the soup, you know? It's like I told my boss the other day. I said, I know you're the big cheese, but personally, I think we're all in a pickle if we keep listening to these pie in the sky ideas. I guess there's no crying over spilled milk.
Oh, dear Lord. This is like a bad Candyland game. Yeah.
Foods few people admit to liking. I happen to like scrapple. I don't eat it a lot because I would be 900 pounds if I did. Spam's weird.
Yeah, any type of meat that they kind of blend together with other meats to create a new meat is always
Like sardines.
it'll split the crowd.
So my dad used to eat back in the 80s. My dad used to eat these cocktail weenies in a can, eat them on saltines. Ugh.
Anything in a can is kind of gross. I even spam in a can. The only time I ever enjoyed spam at all, we were on a camping trip and we had been hiking and I was freaking starving and somebody sliced it up real thin and kind of fried it. That made it okay.
Sounds like
But other than that,
sounds
never.
like a bunch of spam to me.
Yeah, they call me a lot. Spam risk, Mr. Risk.
Tuna fish gets away with it. I mean, you kind of expect them to be in a can, but now they're putting tuna in those weird envelopes.
Yeah.
Perfect for mailing. Not to spoil the surprise, but I just mailed you your Christmas gift. I guess cans are just too much work.
Well, it's hard if you go to work. I remember being at certain offices where like the can opener had gone missing and you had a can of tuna. So, you just had to like put it on the ground and run it over with your car and hope it opened.
Not recommended technique. So how many jokes about food are these two going to do? I was thinking about the other day. I like onions and I like pickles, but
Love
I
pickles.
do not like pickled onions.
Yeah.
And I think that Panera signed some kind of contract with the pickled onion farming committee that they have to sneak them onto a minimum 1,000 sandwiches a year or something. Every time I get a sandwich there, I'm like, this is almost good. Oh, fucking pickled onion on here. There's a lot of things that can be pickled. Liver, besides our liver, I guess. Pickled tomatoes I like. You don't like them, but I like them. But pickled eggs, pickled cabbage, pickled pig's feet, pickled herring. And then you have the whole Peter Piper situation. I mean, how could he actually pick the peppers if they had already been pickled?
Well, same with the woodchuck.
So
I don't
many
think he
questions.
actually chucked wood.
So many
they can
questions.
chuck wood.
This is
Chew wood.
I
I don't know.
just trying to confuse us.
Oh.
So here we are, as promised. An extensive list of signs we ignore to some degree or another. Do not enter. I probably would.
Well, it's $6.95. I pay attention to that.
Yeah, I don't need oncoming traffic.
But sometimes in a door to a retail establishment,
No right on red. People on Hartford Road ought to fucking pay attention to that one.
Yeah.
We've almost been killed multiple times by people ignoring that one. Yeah. How about use other door?
Yeah, there was always.
It's like sort of like no exit. Remember that time at Home Depot?
Yeah.
Just crazy lady that stalks us at Home Depot. Like whenever she sees us, she's like, "Oh, how are you two? Oh, you look so great. Mark's hair looks great. Stacy, you look so healthy." And it's just like whatever. We want to get away from her, right? So anyway, I saw her and she hadn't seen us, and I was desperately trying to go out this door, and it would not open, and I was like trapped. Do not exit here.
Using Jedi mind tricks to get the door to open.
Please open. But we ended up sneaking past her, I think.
Yeah. She was busy.
Yeah. How about this one? No cell phones. Does anyone pay attention to that?
They have those in most courthouses. And, I've had to go there for jury duty. And I thought, the hell, if I'm going to sit in a room for several hours, and not be able to play a game or read
When I went
something
to the court for us to get our marriage license, they didn't enforce that. And when I went for the divorce hearing, they didn't. I think they just put the sign up, and I guess if you're like obnoxious with it, but I think you're allowed to use it. So there's a sign that everybody pretty much ignores. How about open other side on the milk carton? I'll go get like a machete. I'll be like, "Fuck you, bitch." This side. One way. You should probably pay attention to that.
Yeah. The only time I didn't is during COVID when they had the grocery store aisles marked one way. I'm like, no, if I need something right there, I'm not going all the way around.
That was rough.
No,
That was
I'm
rough.
not doing it.
Yeah.
If there's no one in the aisle, I just go up it. What a rebel.
When my daughter was a teenager, we used to get a lot of pushback. Peanut managed zone.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, really. And I would forget sometimes, and I'd make her a peanut butter sandwich, and it was almost like, I had sent the plague to school. It was just like, dear Mr. Marchman, we very seriously take our peanut management at whatever school. I was like, oh, whatever. I know. And I get it. I know that it could be, if you have a severe nut allergy, that you could die from it. I get that. But we didn't have peanut managed zones when we were kids. They just didn't do that.
I guess they just had
I
to.
respect it. I just forget sometimes. What's kind of, I ignored it anyway, but it's kind of going away. Limit 10 items per customer at the self-checkout. They used to have that. But I think ever since they were just like, fuck it, you do it. Now they don't, there's no limit.
No.
Because they didn't want to hire any more, they can't hire any more cashiers, I guess. So that is now,
Even the express line, I guess.
that's gone the way of the
because-
dodo. It really has.
Because of self-checkout, I think has kind of disappeared. Where they had
There's
the,
no more limit. No.
somebody behind you is counting your items and you have 11 and they want to point it out to you and you're like, well, 2 go together.
Those days are over.
It's salt and pepper. That
All
counts
right,
as
the
one
next
item.
one's your favorite. Where do we start?
Mask required. It's becoming rather controversial since even our lovely president has declared COVID is over.
Yeah.
However, it is not over in medical offices.
There's a woman that I will not name that is crazy about masks, thrusting masks at everyone. Masks must be worn at all times. And this woman has gotten us both sick multiple times. And this woman is the one that gave us COVID on our honeymoon. She has no idea of this, but her crazy masking somehow has given us multiple illnesses. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very,
Right back to it.
very controversial. Like you can, any medical appointment you go to, you still have to wear a mask. When I had to have my MRI, I had to still wear a mask. Dentists are easing up, I guess, because they're in your mouth anyway.
Well,
which
yeah,
is
I
kinda
mean, last
silly.
time I went to the dentist, they just handed me a mask. So here, put this on. So I think that's the easiest way to handle it. Because nobody's carrying masks around anymore.
Well, that when I went a week or 2 later, they didn't
how
have
about
me put one on. Like I said, I think they're in your face anyway.
how about protected by ADT? They tell you to leave that out there even if you don't have the service.
Which I may or may not have out there. Ours is protected by AT&T, which probably doesn't even exist anymore. But
Blood watch in effect. What are you supposed to do when you hear that?
I don't know. That's like
Bring your canoe
like
to work?
rock falling. You know,
No, I think
when you're
rock.
driving down
I think
there.
rock falling is. You better fucking listen to that.
speed up. Do the Bugs Bunny and put it
Watch
up.
for falling rocks. Ugh.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird one. It's like there is no defense there. This is like we're just letting you know.
Vehicle subject to towing at owner's expense. I thought that was a given. I didn't think they were going to tow it for me. Just take it around town for free at owner's expense. Here's one you don't see that often. Maybe in Ocean City, no refills, no free refills.
A lot of places are like, oh, refill, don't walk around empty. Yeah, I've seen it the other way too.
What?
Where they're encouraging you to get a refill. They're like, Subway, I think it is, says don't leave empty.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Huh. Interesting.
Because they want you to carry their cup around,
Ugh, for the branding. Yeah.
So you're advertising.
How about beware of dog?
Well, with having a kid being bit by a dog, but
Mm.
they didn't have a beware of dog sign, so I guess we weren't aware.
Yeah.
Beware of cat, is probably better.
I don't think there's a beware of cat sign. Unless you have a lynx or something.
You know what else I hate? When somebody has a sign that says baby on board. What are you supposed to do with that?
Then there's the urban is baby up in here. Or baby up in this bitch I saw the other day. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more chuckle for that. Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
Bridge freezes before road. That's valuable to know.
Especially when it's 90 degrees in the summer.
Well, it's a permanent sign. But I do slow down on ramps and overpasses. Cash only.
Yeah, I try to pay attention to that because if you get in a self-checkout that doesn't take credit cards, that's going to be a pain in the butt.
I'm terrible with cash because I just don't ever carry it around. If somebody gives me like a $10 bill, it will rot in my wallet because I'm such a credit card person. That's how I pay for everything. And I think that paper money is kind of unsanitary anyway.
It's gross.
Yeah.
I think we've talked
We've
about
covered
that before.
covered titty money and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
it's people will pull money out of any crevice. It's so gross.
How about only you can prevent forest fires? They still have that, Smokey the Bear?
I think.
I'm not much of a camper unless it's a hotel, so that's probably why I don't know. But they used to have, I don't see commercials anymore. Only you can prevent forest fires. And they show one person flicked a cigarette and the whole forest went up. I think about this whenever we have fire pit night and I'm dousing everything in lighter fluid and it's just going out.
Yeah, I cheat and get those little bricks that
Yeah.
are fire starters.
I am the world's lousiest arsonist. Just cannot get it done. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, here's a good one. No public restroom.
Mm.
I have a story about it. Okay.
I've always believed that sign. I'm like, oh, I can't pee here.
Yeah. All right. So we were on vacation with my daughter's dance team and some of the crazy moms. And this one crazy mom was telling us that she had some kind of a disability and the state of Maryland had given her an emergency restroom card. Like it's a real thing. And she said, and she gave us the update that she would whip it out like in the Dollar Tree. And she would say, oh, don't do it there. Don't do it there. They won't help you. They won't let you use the bathroom. And I explained to them, I must use the bathroom. This is my card. And I just was picturing it. And I started dying laughing thinking about it. That she knew the no public restroom flexibility of every establishment, like Five Below, all these places where you would never think to use the bathroom. She knew all about it.
I am not aware of I need to poop here card.
No, it's not that I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go here, right here in your store. Yes. And you have to let me because I have this card. You expect the cashier to be like, oh, well, you've got the card. Come on. Here's another one. Ever notice signs for don't park here? Basically, usually like the towed at owner's expense thing.
Right.
They just tell you don't park here, right? Handicap spots in a lot of parking lots, it says handicapped, it's got the symbol, and it says maximum fine, $73 or whatever the maximum fine. Why is that? Does anyone know about this? I'll take some comments on this. Why? It's almost like encouraging you to park there. Because it's like, this is for handicapped people, but if you can afford $73, maybe this is the spot for you.
It's telling you the price.
Yeah.
If you should choose to park there.
It's almost like you can buy it. You can buy the spot for $73. It's like a price tag. It's so weird. They don't have that in any other type of no parking situation. Here's one that I ignore. Check tire pressure. A friend of mine's a mechanic, and he told me, oh, that's just to change the seasons. Because it kept flashing. So now it'll flash all winter and then it'll go away when it gets warm again.
When I had the Fiat, it would actually tell you what the pressure was if it came up. So you could see. And my rule of thumb was if it kept going down, that was a problem. If it just stayed the same number.
You got a freaking hole in your tires.
Right. Exactly. Or you were losing air somewhere.
Yeah.
So I had a situation where it kept going down, and I was starting to get worried about it. So I had never put air in my tires before. Because the one time I tried to put air in my tires, some guy came up in front of me and offered to help me. And then I heard a noise and there was another guy behind me. So I just dropped the hose and got in my car and left. So I've never done it.
You would have ended up on a lifetime plan.
So I watched a YouTube video on how to do it. Very confidently went to the gas station during the day this time. Put it in, thought I accomplished things, started the engine, checked my number. It was lower than it was before. I freaked out. And I remember because I would taken it to Jiffy Lube, they always said if I needed anything in between services, I came back and this guy must have thought I was a crazy. I threw myself at his mercy. I'm like, I tried to put air in it. It's worse than it was before. I made it worse. He put air in it for me.
I find that they make the lettering so freaking hard to read on the tire that tells you the magic number, whether it's 25 or 30 or 35 PSI. Yeah. I mean, I'm practically, my nose is practically on the tire trying to find the number. And it's all this extraneous information like, what did the tire have for breakfast this morning? Where was the tire yesterday? I just need the number. Yeah.
I hate putting air in tires. I'll have them do it forever for me. I can't. It's just a skill I don't have.
What is this food must be consumed in 20 minutes?
That used to be a sign at a McDonald's I used to frequent with the
What?
kids. And
I've never
I
seen that.
guess but when you have kids, they don't always, and it used to make me nervous. I would like look at my watch and think we've been here 22 minutes. Are we getting evicted? But I don't think that was necessarily pointed towards us. I think it was probably people who hung out all day and read the newspaper. Maybe they had issues with it. I don't know.
It's weird.
It's
Old
so,
people love to hang out in McDonald's.
well, the other, like, how there's different McDonald's in your local area.
Yeah.
We used to prefer this one, and it was constantly old men that gathered and just drank coffee and read
What
newspapers.
threat are
and talked.
they?
And they basically, were using up all their free refills all day long. But I
See what we did there?
remember, I was ordering, and this guy nearly knocked me out of the way to get back to the coffee thing because he's old, so get out of his way. He doesn't have a whole lot longer to drink coffee, so
Here's a good one.
I should get out of his way.
No soliciting. I have a story that goes with this. We were just talking about this morning, right? So for a while, I used to travel around with salespeople, and we would visit customers, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, different businesses. Well, there's just one customer I didn't really like that much. The guy was kind of a dick. And we were in the area, so we stopped off to see how he was doing. And somehow we got on the subject of the no soliciting sign, right? And it was him and his boss. These are the older guys. And I made the joke. I said, well, when we see no soliciting, we say, hey, they must have something really good in there, if they got the sign. And this guy, I swear, he looks at me and he goes, well, no, we put it up. We expect the salespeople to not solicit. Completely with a straight face. And I thought, apparently I'm incredibly stupid. How dumb must he think I am that I thought legitimately no soliciting means come on in, the water's fine.
Well, my ex-husband used to work for Cintas, and they were big on cold calling businesses. And basically their slogan was ignore that sign, because their slogan was every floor, every door is what they were supposed to be hitting. So
that's I think that was kind of the 101 thing, yeah. So how about no pets? This is becoming rare, isn't it? I'm seeing pets in Home Depot. I'm seeing pets in Walgreens. I saw a pet in Dunkin' Donuts the other day, and there was a whole ritual where the guy got his sandwich, and then the dog jumped up, and the guy behind the counter at Dunkin' threw something, ham or something, into the dog. I said, "See you tomorrow."
Yeah, a lot of people now, the kind of trend is, because they had service dogs for a long time for people who
Legit
were impaired or would alert them to a seizure. And, you knew those dogs because they came into the restaurant and that dog laid down and you did not touch that dog. Nobody came up to pet it. It was just kind of like everyone ignored it and the dog did its job. Dog was working. Now they have emotional support animals.
I saw a friend of mine had a legit service dog. Her little boy had severe diabetes, and this dog was able to help if there was a problem, if his blood sugar went. I don't know how the dog was able to help with that, but this was this dog had, I swear he had the kid's DNA grafted onto him or something. I mean, this dog was capable of monitoring if the kid was not proper insulin levels. So, and then you compare that to,
or we had a patient.
My service cockatoo has to come on the plane with me.
It's a shitzu. Okay, that's not a service dog. And she had it with a vest that said service animal and a card that she showed us. Again, we looked it up. You can buy this package online for about $50 or $60. And any animal, they ask no questions. They'll just send it out. You can have your emotional support animal. You can argue with people. But then you have most people have no problem with animals. They will pet Jacks if I'm walking him, but you always get somebody who is very anti-animal. We actually had a patient yell at us, how dare we allow a vet to open down the hall from us?
Allow a vet to open? Number
one, we have no control over who leases space. I kind of like it. I like seeing the animals. She actually had a problem with it, that there's a vet in our building now. I was like, okay.
I thought of one that made me think of you right away. You must be this tall to ride this ride.
Oh yeah. I hated that. I hated that. There's a picture somewhere of me I'm a little girl going, and my dad kind of laughing behind me, and right behind me is the yardstick where
My
you have to
daughter was a
measure out.
roller coaster junkie, and I would just be exhausted from getting on all these roller coasters. So I started half-assing it. I'd be like, "Oh, you're too short. Oh, you're too short." I didn't make her stand all the way up.
All right, we must be done signs by now.
All right. Let's finish with this one. Every car alarm ever.
Yeah.
You kind of look to see if it's yours, but no one's rushing to the rescue.
Looks, you just sit at your desk and go, whose car alarm is going off? You know,
That's probably the ultimate. I mean, that could be the most ignored of all. It's the fucking car alarms. Yeah. When they first came out, it was like, the bee's knees, but not now.
no, it's just annoyance.
And here's a few more signs. These are the ones that kind of like IKEA, where they don't want to use they don't want to get stuck with different languages. So they just show a horrible picture. Like this one with the fingers being chopped off by the machinery. This one is for chemicals are in the water. I like this one with the giant electro man for electricity. And the guy's like, yeah. Scorpions available, or scorpions. Beware of scorpions, I guess. And then there's always the falling on your ass.
If you must fall, use jazz hands. That's always my favorite.
Yeah. Hey, you ignored the don't use dish soap.
Oh God.
Like the liquid dish soap.
I was in my 20s. We were very, very broke. We were out of the powder stuff you put in the dishwasher. I don't think they had the tabs then.
Yeah.
And I looked and I thought, I've got dish soap. And it says right on the dish soap, don't use it in the dishwasher.
You fill it all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I thought, they just say that so you buy 2 products. Don't try this at home. I came out, the whole kitchen was suds.
Oh my God.
And water.
I know exactly what you mean.
It was like a monster coming out of the dishwasher.
When I was in my early 20s, we just had like a little coffee pot in the apartment, and we would run out of paper coffee filters, and I could just fold a paper towel in half and put that in the machine, and it would filter the coffee, right? But I worked at this printing company, and we had a big freaking cafeteria with like the industrial coffee machines that flick the button and it does a whole pot at once, where it's actually piped into the water supply and everything. So I tried that little trick there, and I went to the restroom. When I came back, coffee was shooting out all over the place, and there was this like this cleaning lady, and she was like like screaming at me, and I was like, "What dastardly person did this?" She knew it was me. She's like, "You're an idiot, Sam." All right, I had read somewhere that this was a musical show.
This is a music podcast.
Yes.
You didn't tune into the wrong show. This is a music podcast. We're getting to that.
We're just a little bit long-winded, as it were.
This week,
it's possibly about NOLA's finest death metal band, Goatwhore.
We have a great sit down with mainstay Sammy Duet, a great guy, and we had a great time.
Such amazing consistency, this band. Always dark, always super heavy, tons of guitar, incredibly blasphemous. Blood for the Master, Vengeful Ascension. You can buy their albums without previewing them, and you can't say that with a lot of bands. You could just be like, new Goatwhore, order it.
Yeah, they've got this band goes as back as early as 1991, when Sammy actually formed the band. Originally was Kilgore, and then after a few demos by 97 they become Goatwhore. So
Sammy was also in Acid Bath.
yes, he was in Acid.
Very legendary band.
Yeah. They have a great discography. Their latest offering is Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven. Really good record.
It's dark as fuck. Even catchier than the last one, I think. And the Dark Lord is most assuredly pleased with it, I would say.
Yeah, I love their videos are full of everything you'd expect, the skulls, the blood, it kind of looks like a Game of Thrones intro with it's awesome.
Satan and blackness and death and nails, and yes. So let's play a song from the new album. This is Voracious Blood Fixation. All right. So let's talk about Patreon. And Stacy has some marvelous exclusive content that she's going to be putting up this week.
Yes, we
Take it
have
away.
exclusive content on our Patreon page just for fans of the show, our little minions of Snaggletooth, as it were. I'm adding this week a new Clive. Well, it's not a new Clive. It's new to me. A Clive Barker book
These
that
cost $900, just so you know.
I've
I
been
mean,
recently reading. So for our Patreon exclusive content this week, you don't want to miss this. It's a review about a Clive Barker book called Thieves of Always, and it's a really dark. The whole book, it makes you feel like you're in a dream. But I'll be also comparing and contrasting that to one of my childhood favorites, The Phantom Toll Booth, because I see a lot of odds similarities. So you don't want to miss this. Come on and join our minions. It doesn't take much to support this podcast.
I was thinking I might do a thing on just showing off all my tattoos. The ones that aren't X-rated. Like, yeah. So don't get any ideas. Just pointing them out, showing what they are.
Also, and
Mark's tattoos.
you know, we would like to point out we are still new to this. We're learning, we're getting better every week. We did get a little feedback on our TikTok that the camera angles for the journey segment were horrible. We agree. TikTok is a very hard platform. We have fixed it. We did listen to the hate mail and the comments. We got it. We're working on it. We're improving every week, and we need your guys' help to make this show even better, whether it be comments, but we definitely need you to support us so we can continue with fine props, and we have costumes later and some other things. So you're only making the show
much
better.
stuff on deck. Absolutely. So, okay.
And don't forget to hit subscribe. Subscribe to the show on Spotify so you don't ever miss a show. Subscribe to us on Patreon so you don't miss your exclusive content, and subscribe to us on YouTube so you never miss our goofy shows.
Speaking of goofy shows, you ever watch the Seinfeld thing, comedians in cars getting coffee? You ever watch it? Obviously Jerry spent hours coming up with that title. That's just true art. Anyway, it's a good show. It always amazes me how long they drive to the first coffee shop. Now, I know that he's showing off his Lamborghini and all, but it's just not impractical. It's just impractical. I mean, these guys like Shandling, Leno, Eddie Murphy, they all live, Kevin Hart, they all live in the suburbs of LA. And they could just stroll around the corner and there's going to be like a
super long show then.
No, it could be because there's walking around segments and then they could drive somewhere, but it's always that. I mean, he's getting on the highway, he's getting off the highway, he's driving through the city, he's going through mountains. It's like, where the fuck are we going to get coffee, Jerry?
If they were driving, it wouldn't be comedians in cars.
Right. But we could have cars later. It's just weird that that's what's always so far. It's like, he's like, all right, I got to pick a coffee shop 60 miles away.
Oh my God.
I think it'd be better if they called the show Comedians in Comfortable Shoes Getting Coffee. And they could just do a little pedestrian stroll and then maybe admire the car in the second part of the show.
Actually, I think they should have a follow-up show after hours. Just comedians walking to the bar and then stumbling back home later.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think that'd be really funny.
And you ever wonder, I always wonder, because in between, they always have a lot of jazz on that show. Da, 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 right? And they always show like the coffee being pressed and that they stir in the little heart into the espresso. And I think they recycle that shit. I think they just are like, all right.
Footage of coffee making.
The steam coming out. There's a lot of stock footage there, I think. Like, wow, this place has the exact same little heart thingy on the coffee that the place did in New York City. That's so weird. Yeah. So.
I love the one where Alex Baldwin was ordering lunch and they were out of stuff, and the lady kind of...
He says, tell me what you want. I'll tell you what we have. Yep. She knew she had to get a big tip. So really, you could say whatever you wanted. So anyway, remember we were watching Stranger Things?
Oh, yeah.
We're fully caught up on that now, right? Aren't we? Are we fully caught up?
I was catching up a little bit last night because I think I dozed off on the end.
Yeah, I think we both did. But anyway, so I was watching Stranger Things, and ironically, the scenes in the gulag, they reminded me of my Catholic education.
God.
When I was a boy. And it occurred to me that the teachers at the school that I went, they came up with a system that Stalin or Mussolini would have praised as genius in 1981. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Goodie Tag system. So figure maybe first grade through sixth. And I mean, all the teachers did this because they knew what they had, right? So you have the top is a whiteboard and it's got, an eraser and the marker, right? And below it is a series of hooks for everyone in the room. So figure back then classroom size was about 25 kids. So figure 25 hooks. Everybody had a hook, right? So typically, we were little monsters chasing each other down the hallway, boys tackling each other, girls violating dress codes, etc. Right? But if the teacher spotted someone behaving, and this wasn't the only way you could get it, but this was a big way of getting it. Look at Stacy just quietly reading in her seat while Mark tackles Ralph behind her. Stace gets a goodie tag. And then you get this like warm, fuzzy feeling that she hung the little taggies, like a little piece of paper on your hook. The idea was to get as many goodie tags as possible in the course of a month. But wait, here's the good part.
Is this where goody goody comes from?
So you met someone that set you back on your heel. Is that too slow? Goody goody. We can bring it up. Yeah, that's.
Well, what is it? Well, you met someone that you're back on your heel. Goody goody. Is that too much? Don't turn it up. All right. Anyway. Okay. So here it is. So the top part of the board with the dry erase, guess what was written up there? Not what kind of snacks you were going to get, not what kind of privileges you were going to get, not what kind of movie you were going to get to watch. Chores. It was chores. Clap erasers, take out trash, safety patrol, bring the milk up from the lunchroom, shit like that. So whoever got the most goodie tags got to pick which chore they did. Yeah. I'm bringing up the hot lunches for the entire month of October, bitches. What kind of communist authoritarian genius came up with this exploitive system? We were ready to come to blows with one another just to empty the trash cans. It's ridiculous. And around seventh grade,
anything but sit in your seat,
around seventh grade, I started preaching to the masses like they're exploiting us, people. They're exploiting us. We are competing to work for them, but they still got like 6 years of chores out of us. And I think a steel cage match would have been more of a humanitarian thing, so.
Well, it kind of prepares you for life in the real world, because if you're very good at doing your job and you're dependable, guess what? As a reward, you get to do the slackers' jobs too.
Boy, that is so true. Yeah. Nowadays, of course, you'd be able to cheat and purchase goodie tags or bid on them on eBay or something like that. Or getting scam calls promising free goodie tags or iTunes gift cards.
For iTunes gift cards. You can do our chores.
Oh, you were a lunch mom.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go up to my kid's school and be lunch mom, which meant you relieved the teacher for lunch and took over the classroom.
You would pee on the teacher?
Relieve. No. The teacher would get to go eat and get a break.
The teacher relieved herself one
day. They
day.
didn't have a cafeteria, so you had to go in the classroom and, supervise lunch, which I think I've talked about a little bit before. But, the kids would be doing the horseradish, Horseshack, not horseradish. Doing the horseshack, to be the one to get the milk. So I thought that I would, do a game. So I would have a number in my mind and they would have to pick, and whoever was closest to the number without going over, because I grew up, as you should, watching The Price is Right every day during the summer. So that kind of created an argument because they didn't have the Price is Right mentality and they thought they were closer. And so after that, I had to go through something more definitive, like scissors, paper, rock or something to decide. Again, they were all fighting over who walked down the hall to get the milk.
You said Horseshack, right? You know who wrote the funny Welcome Back Cotters?
Huh?
Gary Shandling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
That was one of his first writings.
Gary Shandling runs through it this week.
Well, and he said in the documentary, he says he wrote like 3, and then he goes, I'm not motivated to write a 4th one. How do you write 10? Like he didn't want to fucking do it anymore. He wanted to move on. Yeah, he wasn't a writer. So but anyway, back to school with Mark.
Oh, no.
So there was this one time we learned, this is like later on, 7th and 8th grade, we discovered that if we offended the nuns collectively, I'll do the Lars Ulrich. If we collectively decided that we would get the nuns to yell at us. Anyway, Then it would be better than having to we'd skip a class because it was better to sit there and have the nuns scream at us all red faced than to have to do math or spelling or whatever, right? It was awesome, right? So one time they found a dirty note in the cloakroom.
And by dirty, do you mean like mud on it, or do you mean like suggestive?
It probably said like nice tits or something. I don't know. But anyway, so we got the finger wag for an hour, right? So then I got together with a female that was almost as twisted as I was, and we started crafting dirtier and dirtier notes and dropping them to get them to freak out. And then every time they freaked out, we would miss a class. It was great, right? And then I think after that, then we started letting them. They would walk in on us hugging in the. I was like, I was just giving her a hug because it's her birthday. Oh my God, you can't touch that woman, So yeah, we just wanted to offend so that we could get yelled at instead of doing work. So
Is that better than doing work?
it was then.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I fucking hated that school so much. Yeah.
I'd get all.
I was always on the fall on the sword to get out of school.
Oh. Yeah, I also hate that. I remember teachers doing that to kids, like say they didn't have their homework done
Mhm.
and they had a horrible lie as to why they didn't have their homework done.
I think there was a flood and a fire, and my dog died, and like that sort of thing.
Well, just not even that well. It was just like I couldn't get my homework done because we didn't have electricity last night. And they'd be like, "Why didn't you, use a flashlight? Why didn't your mother let me know?" They would always, but they make the kids stand up. And it even got worse by the time my kids were in school because my daughter had anxiety problems. So I used to go to 5th grade quite frequently. And this one math teacher, if the kid didn't have their work done, they had to stand up and they'd be like, "Well, I forgot what the assignment was." Really? Well, you could have checked the school page to see what it was. Well, our computer wasn't working. Really? Because you could have called another student and asked them to check it. And it would just go on forever. I'm like, how much time are we going to waste pulling apart this kid's story? And I'm a parent in the back of the classroom being annoyed.
I have to admit, when my kids were young, I was kind of like the homework Nazi. I used to almost pull that. So it wasn't online yet. So they had like a pad where they were supposed to write their assignments. And my kids are all terrible at school. They didn't want to do it. So I'd sit down with them and it would say, study math, test Thursday. And all my kids did this. They were like, "Oh, we don't really have to do that." And I was like, "Really? It's written here. We're going to do it." "No, she said we don't have to do it." I said, "Why is it here?" So then I started to do this. I said, "Take out a piece of paper. I'm going to write a letter to your teacher. Stop putting asinine assignments in this book that clearly don't exist because my daughter says that we don't have to study. We don't actually have a test. We don't have this." Oh God, they hated me. I was basically every night there was like 20 minutes of calling bullshit on the whole homework thing. I wrote it, but we don't really have to do it. And then when it went online, it was the same way. I would be like, "It says online that you've got a report due next Thursday," because they like to do it the night of. You know what I mean? Like you always find out that the report's due the night before. So I would get in front of that. Oh, they hated it, bucking and screaming. "Dad, that's not doing forever."
Yeah, we had a situation one night where there was drama with my ex-husband and we were fighting and my daughter was upset and we finally got everybody back to the house and calmed down. And my son was like, "I need to build an atom for tomorrow." I'm
Exactly.
like, "Are you kidding me?"
Right when you were thinking about relaxing.
Yeah, no.
Did I tell I don't think I might have told the other show. Did I tell the piece of shit story? Did I tell that? So when I was a boy, whenever my parents went out of town, I had a big beer party. And I mean, it would be like 5-alarm
Yeah, I think
affair,
we did.
right? I'll edit it if we did. Anyway, it's worth retelling. So I was the oldest. And so I felt like I had this burden of responsibility. So once the party was over, I immaculately cleaned everything. I took the beer bottles to another time zone to get rid of them. I scrubbed and polished and put everything back, just like at the end of, or that scene in Weird Science, So,
Or risky business.
yes. So years later, I come home from, I think I was at school, and it was like a Sunday morning, and my brother had just had a huge party, and I mean, the place was trashed. I mean, stuff was broken. There was like overflowing cigarette ashtrays everywhere, beer cans everywhere. And I tried to wake him up. I'm like, dude, we gotta get this cleaned up. Mom and Dad are gonna be here, right? And he wasn't rousing. So I started to try to clean up. With that, my father walks in, takes one look at my brother laying there, and he goes, "Look at that piece of shit." And that was it. That was all the consequence he got. He didn't even have to clean up. They cleaned it up. And I just
Oh my
remember thinking,
God.
I could have been a piece of shit if you would have let me. All that work for nothing. Well, we didn't talk about town halls yet. Didn't you say something about town halls?
Oh, when I got in trouble, mostly I got in trouble in 5th grade because they put me and my best friend together in the same class. And that had never happened before. We were always in separate classrooms. So I would get in trouble for talking or throwing a note to her because we didn't text message back then.
Throw a note.
No, you didn't do it like that. You did it like this.
The teacher catches it.
Back on our duck.
Throw a note.
Or yeah. I would get in trouble, and when I got in trouble, then she would be like, "You have to come to the town hall meeting," which is definitely a threat.
Oh my God.
So basically, what that involved was
Was Donald Trump there? I mean,
basically what that meant was when recess started and everyone else ran to the playground, you had to stand against a brick wall like you were about to be shot by a firing squad with your heels against the wall, and you had to stand there till the teacher decided to let you go to recess.
when I worked at Sephora, they had town halls. And I thought, what a ridiculous, insulting, fake way of communicating with employees. The questions were so obviously handpicked ahead of time, but they acted like they weren't. Nobody would ask the CEO, hey, how come we didn't get a Christmas bonus? Like nothing with substance. It was always some idiot would just say, we just wanted to thank you for such a lovely golf tournament this month. Everyone had such a great time. And I'd be like, freaking suck-ups. It reminds me of that show Better Off Ted, you know. What about ESP? The ESP thing.
Oh God. I worked for a huge corporation and they owned ophthalmology and optometry offices all across the country. And our CEO decided to grace our office. You know, we had a lot of stuff going on. They had just basically moved accounting to Houston, and everyone was a little concerned about, the direction and their job security. So he came to kind of quell fears and talk about what was going on in the company and give this big speech to us. And at the end, when he asked if there were any other concerns about our company direction, a girl who worked in our office raised her hand and complained that in the office kitchen, we had to use ice trays, which were nasty because the ice machine never got hooked up to any kind of water source. I couldn't believe she was saying it. I was so mortified just because it was someone from our office. So he basically, did the stepping aside and just said, well, I'll direct your concerns to your direct supervisor and see them for additional guidance. It's not something you bring up to the CEO of the company. Really?
He's talking about record-breaking EBIT numbers, and you're like, what about that nasty water? What you gonna do about that?
What you gonna do about our lack of ice cubes and our nasty ice cubes? Tastes
Right.
funny because we don't have any
We're up to your
baking
ad.
soda. So I would like to talk about Home Chef, our sponsor. In fact, I just made us a lovely Home Chef meal right before the show.
He knocked it out of the park.
They make it super easy for you. You can go on, pick your meals, pick your number of meals. They get delivered directly to your door. All your ingredients for your meals are in separate bags. You get a recipe card that tells you if it's spicy, if it's easy, hard. I tell you, even when Home Chef has changed the way I cook completely because I've learned to do things the way they do things. So, my younger years, I would always make, meat and, maybe a starch, and it was always frozen vegetables. I never use frozen vegetables anymore. They send you fresh produce. They've gotten me to roasting it in the oven on cookie sheets. So I even do that. The meal I just made was burgers. They even have you toasting the buns on the shelf. It was great. And one thing you'll learn about Home Chef, it's all about the sauces. It's all about the spices. They guide you through making the best sauces. It makes all the difference for your wonderful flavorful meals. We just had a burger with tomatoes and jalapeno guacamole, and I made it in like 25 minutes. They make everything easy.
No, I'm not going to eat for 3 days.
They make everything delicious. Hit the link to go and check out their meals. You can save on your first order through us. So that takes $30 off your first box. Tell them Mark and Stace sent you.
Okay. Wax of Contrition time. Got a really good one this week. We kind of teased it last week. Guerra's Mirage album has been released in double LP format. And here I'm just going to show some.
Not COVID.
Sorry. I'm just going to show. Here's the record, but don't worry. I'm going to show some really nice close-ups of me taking it apart. I mean, look at this is basically a slightly golder version of the masks that they wear on stage.
This symbol kind of looks like, you know, the
Yeah.
symbol Prince chose to be when he wasn't Prince for a while. Very mystical.
Very mystical, yes. No, it's a gorgeous gatefold. Take a look at some of these inserts. Just take a look at the care that went into creating this record. And the music is just so caustic. This is, if you we're finding more and more of these bands that not only are writing lengthy, epic black metal, but they're also adding this visual component. We're going to talk about
So wild.
We're going to talk about Imperial Triumphant later in the show. They're another band like that. So this is a fantastic record if you're into things like Deathspell Omega or Portal. I definitely recommend this band. Check out some of their live footage that's on YouTube.
Really outstanding, incredible, intense shows.
Yeah. I mean, this is a new band making some really thought-provoking new music in 2022. So
With
definitely
some
get on.
guitar throwing.
Yeah, a little bit of helicopters in here, I swear. Okay, let's play a song. I'll let you introduce this one.
All right, let's play a song. Let's go back a ways with Goatwhore. This is from 2009. Also, a small aside, I just was remembering reading from that era. In 2010, they were actually part of a video game soundtrack for Splatterhouse. Imagine that.
That seems to match.
But anyway, this is the year before, from 2009. This is from the Killer album, Carving Out the Eyes of God. This song is called Shadow of a Rising Knife, which just makes me think of
Black bleeding eyes of the pale horse, entrance into the passage of war, these nails that were forged into the cross, embracing of thoughts swallowed by the dark. Let's hear it.
Play it.
Okay, I think we're all pumped up now for the interview with Sammy from Goatwhore. So let's take it away.
Yeah, we've definitely been enjoying Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven, which, by the way, I think is your longest title yet.
Yeah, we tried to beat our last one. No, it wasn't the last one. It was one before. I think it was a Constricting Rage of the Merciless. So
Yeah,
we're trying to come up with longer titles to confuse people.
You're not going to be able to see it too good, but I have the tattoo of that Sam Hain poster behind you. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Hell yeah.
November Coming Fire, baby. Yeah.
One of my favorites. One of my favorites.
As soon as I saw that while you were doing the audio, I'm like, look, there's my tattoo behind me. Oh, cool.
Yeah, we really we have so many questions for you. We always come up with a bunch. You know, what going like all the way back to like when Acid Bath kind of was over and you guys made those first couple demos and you were Kilgore at that point. What made you change the name to Goatwhore?
It was just the music was changing because when we started off as Kilgore, we were more like grindcore kind of influence stuff.
Okay.
It was still very satanic, but we weren't really focused. And it was like, you know, at the time, why is everybody texting me? But anyway, at the time, we weren't taking it real seriously. So when we finally made the decision that like, okay, Acid Bat's over, this is basically going to be my main focus from now on, we should probably rename the band Kilgore. And plus there was another band at the time that was called Kilgore or Kilgore Smudge or Kilgore related named band.
Right. Yeah.
So we were like, let's just change it because, to be honest with you, we named the band Kilgore because we saw the name on a urinal. So
You never know where inspiration is going to find you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you know, we initially, the original name of the band was Cesspool. But then, you know, there was another band called Cesspool at the time. So, like, all right, we have to do something really that has to be involved with excrement of some sort. So we named the band Kilgore because we're somewhere out, and it was me and the drummer at the time, and I was just taking a piss, and I looked down at the urinal, and it says Kilgore on it. And I said, "Dude, I got the name of the band, Kilgore." He's like, "How did you come up with that?" He's like, "I looked down at the urinal, I was just taking a piss in."
Yeah.
So the funny ways we come up with band names, it's very unusual way that we it's the same story of how we came up with the name Goatwhore. You know, it's just a very it comes when you least expect it. Let's put it that way.
She gets a lot of times she'll get a band will reach out to her and say, you know, they want to get involved with the show, listen to our music, and she'll forward it to me. And some days I'm just like, is it bad band name day? My God. I mean, some terrible fucking names come across. I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to like this. The band name is so bad, you know, like this took all of 5 minutes to come up with. You know what I mean?
I mean, well, the thing you have to think of is that nowadays that the times we live in, you know, all the cool band names have been taken, you know,
Yes.
Venom and Slayer and all the great band names are all gone.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little bit more inventive to come up with a band name nowadays, because basically with such a vast abundance of bands, it's hard to find a really good name that really, you know, and the thing about a band name as well, you know, there's some bands, like you were saying, like I listen to stuff all the time. People send me stuff, and there's these great bands, okay, that I listen to, and I mean, this is fantastic, and I can't pronounce the band name, much less read the logo.
Yeah.
So you have the logo that you can't read, and you can't pronounce the name.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I heard this really good band the other day, and then my friend will be like, well, what is it called? And it's like, I you know, number one, I can't remember because the name was so fucking weird, and two, I couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and a lot of times that ends up being a single dude, you know, playing in his garage, you know.
yeah,
we
basically.
Yeah.
This great music we loved. It was called I Imagine Murder, but they only have 4 songs. And I'm like, and they said they played a show. I'm like, did they play all 4?
Yeah.
So
You see that more and more in Spotify age. A band that just has 4 singles and that's all they have, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the times we live in, I suppose, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, after watching your videos, they got more blood in them than the Games of Thrones intro and skulls, and I love it. Upside down crosses, goat heads, and you seem to be such the orthodox, raw and organic kind of black and death metal. What has helped the purity of this band stay so true for so long?
Yeah.
Because this is what we do. I mean, there's no real explanation or deep meaning behind it. This is, you know, once we honed in on our sound, you know, I think we all silently made a promise to ourselves that we weren't going to change much. You know, I mean, within reason, you know, there's always room for improvement and room to, you know, try experimental things. But, you know, to keep the purity of it this is just what we do. You know, it's not something that we really think a whole lot about or try to focus on. It just kind of, we're like a conduit for Satan, basically, is all that. It's him speaking through us and interpreting the words through our music from him, you know. And a lot of people, you know, I guess don't really are thinking too much about it rather than letting his master's voice speak through you.
Exactly.
You have to.
Yeah. Well, I was curious because we're kind of talking about the early days. The first album, you were 2 guitars with Ben, and then you went to single guitar ever since. And it just reminds me of, like, I remember I used to like listen to the old Overkill records. And I used to be like, man, Gustafsson is the hardest working motherfucker, I swear. Because everybody else had 2, what made you, how come you never went back to 2? I guess I just always was curious.
Well, we have really bad luck with second guitar players.
Really? Okay.
Yes. The first one turned into a junkie, but thank goodness he's gotten his life back together.
Okay.
And the second one, I don't remember exactly what happened, but he left the group as well. But so we had shows booked, and the guys that we had left, and they were like, well, what do you think about just playing these shows as a 4-piece and get through the shows and see how we feel about it? And I was like, yeah, it's going to be a little bit extra work on me, but I can handle this. So we did the shows, and the rest of the guys in the band were like, we are not going back to a 5-piece. They're like, you have this under control. It's one less person we have to worry about. And with the bad luck that we had with the second guitar players in the past, they're like, just you proved that you can pull it off by yourself. So we want to leave it as a 4-piece. And I was like, that's fine. Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting. It reminds me of something else New Orleans related. Years ago, I interviewed Pepper Keenan, and I asked him, why don't you ever play stuff from Animosity or, the early stuff in the shows? And he just said, well, we're a 2-guitar band, and that's 1 guitar music. And I was like, duh.
That's an excuse. Pepper, I'm calling you out.
All right, when you see Pepper, you tell him that's a load of shit. Then you go ahead and tell him that.
Yeah, I see him every once in a while, but yes, that you can always convert a 1-guitar song with 2 guitar
with 2
players.
guitars. Okay.
Yes,
okay. I'll hold you to that.
It's the hard part is converting a 2-guitar song to 1 guitar. That's where it becomes difficult.
Right, trying to play like Where Eagles Dare with 1 guitar or something. Yeah,
exactly. You definitely have your hands full on that one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mark and I were talking. Your leads are so majestic. You were saying they were in the vein of like Uli Roth.
Oh, I was thinking you're a lot more Uli Roth than say Gary Holt, grab it and wank it type of thing. I really like your leads. Very majestic.
That's Uli Roth is one of my favorites. So that's a humongous compliment. Thank you.
Hey, as long as he doesn't try to sing, he's the man. Because that voice, no.
I mean, Uli was meant to be a guitar player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although Dark Lady's pretty cool. That one's not too bad, the vocals on that. He sings that. But some of the other stuff, that's why Taken by Force is so great, because they finally figure it out. They're like, oh, no, turn his microphone off. Just let him play. Yeah.
Right. Just let him play. Do what Uli does. Uli, stop worrying about singing.
Exactly.
Worry about the fretboard, man. You got it.
That's right. I used to have an old Guitar Player magazine from like 82 or 83, and there was an ad for the first Uli solo album, and it said, no matter what guitarist you've heard, you've never heard anyone as awesome as Uli John Roth. That was the ad. And I was like, okay, well, that about says it all. I mean, there's an ego. Wow.
But there is some substance behind that, because he's such a unique player, that you could find anybody that'll try to cover a Uli solo. Yeah. And it just doesn't have that thing that Uli does. Yeah. I think Uli's in touch with something deeper on this planet than a lot of people aren't in touch with. I've met him a couple of times. He's a very spiritual person. Yeah. So, he's definitely he's got a connection with something otherworldly on this planet that is definitely apparent when you meet him.
Yeah, I think he's done enough chemicals that he's convinced himself he is Hendrix. He just is. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
It's a possibility. As I like to refer to them as enhancers.
There you go. Yeah, it's chemical refreshment. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
You have some interesting new bits that you've added in, like the piano at the end of the title track is super daring. I love it. I love the blend. What kind of brought that about?
Who wandered over to the piano? Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting story behind that whole piano thing. Is that when I originally did the demos for that song, I did that part on guitar.
Okay. With
a little bit of effects and stuff like that. And we tried it in the studio, and it sounded good. So there was where we recorded in the studio at the place called Studio in the Country. As you can see, I'm wearing.
Oh, okay, I see it. Yeah.
So we recorded in this fantastic studio, and it's where Kansas did a bunch of their records.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Like back, like it was built in like this in the early 70s, I believe. And they had the piano in the studio that Kansas recorded, like "Carry On Your Wayward Son" and all the
Yeah.
hit songs. "Dust in the Wind." I think they had a little bit of piano in there. That was all performed on this piano that they had in the studio from back then.
Okay.
And the engineer, Jared Pritchard, was like, "Why don't you go play that guitar part on the piano real quick, and I'll record it,
Oh wow.
and let's see how that comes out."
That's
So
cool.
I went and I translated the guitar part to the piano, and I played it. And he comes back, and I went back into the mixing room to listen to what was there, and he's like, "Listen to this." And he had put like some reverb on it and stuff,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Let me go do that again." So we did a couple of more takes of it, and it came out fantastic. And I was like, "Screw the guitar part. Let's just leave the piano in there, because it really we feel vibe that song has, you know."
Yeah, I was like on my second or third listen to the new album, and I'm like, is that a piano on a Goatwhore album?
It's
You know,
so poignant though. It just
I didn't notice it right away, but then I was like, wait a minute, so interesting.
Yeah, it kind of just adds more of that kind of, that
The majesty of Satan. Yeah.
exactly, the darkness and the sorrow that we're trying to portray in the song,
Yeah.
it was really good. Well, I mean, you've been part of this death metal scene for over 20 years. What do you think the biggest changes in the industry that have happened since you started, as far as, like now it's streaming and Bandcamp and Spotify? And do you think that hinders or helps like underground music?
Man, as far as like the changes, I've seen so many changes from doing this for so long. We could sit here and talk for hours about that. But as far as like the Spotify and the streaming and all that stuff, I mean, you have to roll with the times. It was inevitable. I remember when I was listening to 8-tracks when I was a kid. Then the cassette came out, and like, what's this new thing?
Yeah.
It was basically a smaller version of the 8-track. Then vinyls, and well, the vinyls were there before as well. Then the CDs came, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Well, this will last a lot longer and sound a lot better than the cassettes.
Yeah.
So it just snowballed into what it is now, because you can't scratch your streaming when you're listening to it,
Oh, yeah.
So it's just it's an inevitable evolvement of what happens in the music industry, and rather than try to slag it or anything, you might as well embrace it, because if you try to fight it, it's a losing battle.
I understand. Speaking of CDs, remember that? I think it was a Memorex commercial or something came out in the early 90s where it was the new CD, and he fucking threw it to the dog, and it was like a frisbee, and the dog caught it, and then they played it. You ever see that? That was one of the original ads for the CD. What a crock of shit that was. I mean, really? Try throwing your CD to a dog and having him catch it and then put it on. That's not going to fly.
Yeah, exactly. It was a little far-fetched.
I guess there was a durability factor that they quickly gave up on.
Right.
Do you think your basic fan base has stayed the same or changed?
I mean, to an extent, it has definitely stayed the same, but I definitely have seen over the years a new group of people that I wouldn't have really expected to see at our shows. But it was like ever since the beginning of Goatwhore, we've always had this weird fan base to where they kind of come and go. To when we first started, it was a lot of the older heads of like the old death metal and black metal guys that have been in the scene forever that would come to our shows and come hang out and see the show. But then, they got old and were like, I don't go to shows that much anymore. Then we have a new group of children that comes into the shows. And I mean, it's a constant rotation of new fans, and I welcome any new fans. I'm not going to be the kind of guy that's like, if you don't listen to Dark Throne, you're not welcome at a Goatwhore show.
Right.
I welcome everybody and anybody, whoever you are. As long as you're there to enjoy the music, that's all that matters to me.
You're like, I want to see that original copy of Soulside Journey before I'm going to fucking let you in. How about
I
that?
want to see you before you're allowed to come into this show. I want to see the Land of Frost demo.
Exactly. Yeah. How about I want to see the Necrophagist original cassette. Let's see it. Get him out of here.
Well, you guys are kicking off. It looks like a big European tour in January.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Starting in Germany. Wow.
Starting in Germany.
How are the European crowds compared to the U.S. crowds for you guys?
They're a little different. I mean, the U.S. crowds are more, how can I say it, more varied. Okay. Like you'll at our shows, I've noticed, you'll see a combination of a lot of different types of people. That'll be like, you'll have a kid that's strictly into death metal, and you'll have a kid that'll be strictly into black metal. Then you'll have, some kids that just are into punk for some reason that like us, but I think in Europe, they're more streamlined, to where they're into strictly extreme stuff, extreme metal, and that's the type of crowds that are in Europe, in Germany especially. They are like superior diehards, just in it till the end, rather than such a different, varied crowd where you have different types of metal fans there. In Europe, it's more straight ahead and streamlined as far as it's really hard to explain. But if you attended a show like that in Europe, you'd say, "Oh, I understand exactly what he's talking about."
Yeah, and in German beer hall, you don't have any guys in the back with khakis and slacks or khaki slacks on. They look like they just got off work.
Yeah, exactly.
I always see guys like that at metal shows. I'm always like, what's your excuse for wearing slacks to this show? I guess they couldn't get off work.
Be like, I'm in mourning. Like, what are you mourning? My soul.
Are there any songs of yours that just don't translate to live shows?
Well, that's one thing that we focus on, is to concentrate on making sure that every song does translate to a live show. That's always been a big factor in the way we write. So, there's a lot of times where I'll be writing something, and somebody, one of the guys in the band will be like, "Would you be able to play that live?" I'm like, "Yeah, trust me, I thought about this."
Your lyrics are so, I think that someone who wasn't a fan of this genre might make an assumption and assume it isn't as heady and literary bounded as it is. But what are your big literary inspirations there?
I don't really write a whole lot of the lyrics. Our singer Ben does, but he's constantly reading new stuff. So his influences are very, very vast. As far as the parts that I write, I don't tend to focus on anything in general. I just try to, it's really hard to explain, because a lot of times when I'm writing the lyrics, it's either when I first wake up or when I first go to sleep, where I'm not really thinking about anything. And then this idea will pop into my head when I'm in a semi-conscious state, and I'll just kind of write the lyrics down, and I'll come back when I'm coherent, and I'll try to think of what the hell I was thinking at the time, and just kind of build from that. I guess it's, the whole being a conduit for certain spirits on this earth. Yes. When you go into a trance and you're like semi-conscious, certain things come into your mind that you can't explain.
Yeah. I was just telling Stace a little while ago, because we do a lot of comedy bits on the show. And the way if I think of a bit, I'll email it to myself, right? Well, I'll do that when I'm drunk. And then the next day I'm like, what the fuck is Newell Post? What is that? I have no idea what I thought it was hilarious when I was fucked up, but the next day I'm like, great. What is that? You know?
I know I know exactly what you're talking about.
I wanted to ask you here.
Oh,
Let's see, listen.
sorry.
I want to ask you one of the songs on the new album, and on this I could be totally out on left field with this. Voracious Blood Fixation. For some reason, every time that song starts, I think of that Testament Demonic album with Gene Hoglan. Just that groove that starts it off. And I was just wondering if anybody was like binging on Dark Angel or something for the sessions, you know.
That particular riff, I know what you're talking about, and I was binging on a lot of Entombed and a lot of Dismember.
Ah,
So
that's great.
I think that kind of what I was trying to do is trying to meld a Swedish death metal riff with a sort of black metal tinge to it.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Have you heard the new Defleshed?
Not yet.
We already own it because, of course, it was Heads on Spikes. So had to get that vinyl immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. Great band. Great
Yeah,
band.
they're really good too. And Swedish.
Yep.
So I was reading some horrible story about how Ben broke his leg in some kind of hydraulic thing and on a tour.
No. Well, sort of. Ben was touring with his other band, Soylent Green, at the time.
Okay.
And he was driving. It was very late at night. It was a very long drive to get to the show that they were leaving. So he was already tired. So, rule to the wise, never drive a long distance when you're tired.
Okay.
So, they were doing like an overnight drive or something. And he fell asleep at the wheel
Oh, God.
and hit the back of a semi truck.
Oh, my.
And he was caught. Like the front end of the van was completely demolished. So he was trapped with his legs stuck where the pedals and the gas and the brakes are. So they had to pull out what they call the jaws of life, which is this big hydraulic thing that kind of tears the metal apart so they could get him out.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, we were a little nervous for a little while, but he walks fine now. He has a couple of extra bolts and extra pieces of metal in his legs that likes to set off metal detectors in the airports. It's always great,
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like
it's really awesome.
Lucky. Yeah, it sounds like he's really lucky because that could have been really bad. Yeah.
Yeah. But the type of guy that he is, I knew that wasn't going to hinder him because he's a very determined individual, So he, if it wasn't something, if it was something he could overcome, he's going to overcome it.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question now, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I'm not trying to upset the family or anything. But what do you think about the Pantera thing without Dime? Without the brother?
I think it's fantastic, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because I know what it's like to want to play music that you can't play music with anymore because someone is no longer on our plane of existence. Yeah. The whole acid bath thing, our bass player passed away.
Right.
And we, that's when we decided to call it a day. But, as the years go by, you realize that there's a void inside you that still wants to play this music. And I think, the surviving members of Pantera are feeling that now, it comes at a later age. You start to realize you don't have this, you yourself don't have that much time left on this planet, So try to use the time wisely. And I think that's their mind frame is like, hey, I want to play these songs again. I mean, and we know that the two,
no Vinny, no Dime. Yeah.
No Vinny and no Dime are there anymore, but, we can fill in the blanks and try to do our best and, maybe bring some closure to the guys that are left that need to have that closure in their lives. I support it. Absolutely. Because in the same boat, I would love to do an acid bath show and maybe something like that will happen, but it won't be with certain people that are no longer around,
Right. Yeah, I was telling Stace about Stace is a big John Wayne Gacy fan, so I was like, "Oh, you'd love acid bath." Yeah.
Yes, I support them doing the Pantera thing 100%. You have to think, what would Dime say?
Give me another beer.
Yeah, exactly. Play the song. Give me another beer and play the goddamn song right.
Exactly. Yeah.
God, I was looking at those big. What are the sleevey things with the spikes? Does that like create wardrobe malfunctions, or does it make it easier to play?
It keeps the stage divers off the stage.
They look they'd be great in a roller derby. Boom, you know.
Oh yeah, they're not toys. They're real. And they will fuck somebody up, and that's the purpose.
Wow. Should we play our game?
Yeah.
All right. So we have this game we play. It's called 5 Random Questions with Stace. So I have questions numbered 1 through 85. So I need to pick 5 numbers, which will correspond to questions for you to answer.
So 1 through 85.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay.
5 numbers.
5 numbers, 1 through 85.
Yes.
Oh my, let's start with 47. Let's do 6 for just a good measure because we're missing a number, but anyway. What's another one? Oh goodness gracious, let's try for 13. That's always a favorite. 2 more. Let's try number 1. Why not? And you said, what was the last number?
85.
Let's try 85.
Okay.
Boy, I tell you, it's something with Metal Guys and 7. Alan from Primordial picked all 7s. We were like, everything's 7.
Yeah.
All right. Number 47. What do you look forward to every day?
Petting my cats.
How many cats do you have?
I have 2 of them.
We have 4, probably because we don't want 5.
I would have more, but my boys are like, you're not bringing anybody else into this house. Because there was a stray that was living in my backyard, and he was the sweetest little cat ever. Well, actually, all right, do we have time for a kind of a long story?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so we were rehearsing with Goatwhore one night. Okay, and I was getting ready. I was leaving the parking lot of the rehearsal room, and I could see by this tree as I was walking to our car, there was a little cat. I'm like, and our rehearsal room's right near the highway. So I'm like,
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna go grab the cat and go bring him off into the neighborhood so he doesn't wander out into the street and get ran over. So I turned my back for a second and the cat's gone. And I'm like, where did the fucking cat go? Then there's a little carrier that was right by the fence of the studio. And I go and look in the carrier and the cat's in the carrier.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm just going to take this motherfucker home. He's already in the carrier. Fuck it. So I zip him up in the carrier. I bring him to my house and I let him loose in the backyard. And I'm going to, there's a bunch of cats in the neighborhood already outside. So I'm like, he'll make some friends and he'll be fine. So a couple of weeks go by and he's still hanging out in the backyard. And every time I'd open the back door, he would try to run inside. So I'm like, no, you don't want to come in here. So one day I was like, all right, you want to come in here so goddamn bad? Come in. So I let him come in the house. And my 2 boys see him.
Oh, no.
But this cat, the cat that I saved, he runs right up to them. Like, hey guys, how's it going? And my boys are like, no. I'm not your friend. I don't know who you are. And so it was a bad. I had to separate them. It got pretty bad. So that's when I was like, yeah, there's not going to be a third one in this house.
All right. I love it. All right. Moving on to question 66. What is the best Wi-Fi name you have ever seen?
Oh, man. I've seen some interesting ones. I think the one that I could really remember was Tickle My Nuts 69. That was one that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, you don't forget that. Yeah.
All right. Number 13. If you had to do one chore yourself, would it be cooking, gardening, or a home repair?
Cooking. Probably cooking because I love to cook. I'm from Louisiana. We love to cook.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a question for you. As a segue, what is like, all right, and we're from Baltimore. In Baltimore, we eat steamed crabs. And
Yes.
it's a Baltimore thing. And people from Boston come down and they see us rip these crustaceans apart and slather them in Old Bay and chase it with beer, and they're all freaked out. What in New Orleans do you do that's only a New Orleans thing like that?
It's the same. Crawfish as well here.
Crawfish? Okay.
Oh,
It's the same idea. You have to peel them yourself. It's not like you get a plate of the crawfish tails and like you eat them with a fork.
Right.
You
right.
get the whole crawfish and you got to bust into it and eat it. It's the same thing with we boil the crabs here instead of steaming them.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So we tear the things apart to get to the meat. A funny story. I had a friend of mine from Cleveland, Ohio, and he came into town, and he's one of these guys that likes to brag and be this big shot and all this stuff. And he was like, hey, next time I come to Louisiana, you got to bring me get some Cajun food. And I'm like, all right, I got your number. So we took him out and got him some boiled crabs and boiled crawfish. And he's just like sitting there looking at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got to fucking peel the motherfuckers to eat them, man. And he was like, that seems like a whole lot of work for not much reward. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. You wanted to get some Cajun food. I got you here with the real shit, man.
Yeah.
And
That's exactly the same as when a person from Boston comes down and tries to eat steamed crabs. The same thing. They're like, okay, that was an experience. And they're like, oh, fuck off. Go back to whatever.
All right, question number 1. How often do you talk to yourself out loud?
Too much.
I love it. And question 85. What is something that normal people do that is actually pretty weird?
Man, where should I start? Normal people. That's such an open-ended question. Things that normal people do that are weird. Being overly friendly to strangers.
I have to do that as part of my job every day.
Yeah, it's true.
Man, you have a few guitars behind you.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
It never ends.
It just goes on and on. Look at that.
Yeah. Oh, that's just a couple of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have a problem.
How do you pick which ones are going to come with you?
I take a couple of them to each time we practice, and whatever one I feel that I'm comfortable with, I just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna take this one with me. But that's almost like narrowed down to about 5 of them, because I mean, there's some stuff on that rack that is very expensive that I would not want to take on the road with me.
Right.
So I have 5 or 6 that are already kind of beat up and stuff that if it got scratched or dinged or whatever even if it got broken, I wouldn't be like heartbroken,
Do you have any that are like the Spinal Tap? It can't be played ever. Don't point even. Do you have any like that?
No, every instrument should be played.
Okay. All right.
That's my
Still got
philosophy.
the old tagger on it,
Yeah, if it has strings, it needs to be played, no matter how expensive it is.
Okay. Very good.
You had a question about something in New Orleans too, some kind of music?
I don't know. All right. The New Orleans scene, the bands are so consistently good at, there's a lot of cross-pollination between, there's Crowbar and there's I Hate God and there's you guys and there's Super Joint, and it just, what is it about that area where there's no shit band, like every other scene seems like I know you might like him, but Bay Area, I can't stand Violence. That guy, I hate that guy's voice, right? But there's no bands from New Orleans that are like Violence. They're all good in their own way.
Well, I think the thing is that the bands that you heard from New Orleans are only the good ones. There's some really bad bands.
A lot
here.
of good ones. I mean,
there's
Graveyard Rodeo. I mean, there's
all the ones that actually got out and did something were all the good ones, and all the shitty ones just kind of stay here, and nobody wants anything to do with.
Oh, there's the quality control then. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever see Mike Nine from I Hit God? He used to write for me years ago.
Yeah, I'll see him every once in a while. I talk to
Yeah.
him. We text every once in a
Yeah.
while. But yeah, he
He's a
lives
great
he
guy.
lives he lives about an hour and a half away from me, so I don't really get
Oh,
to see
okay.
him very often unless we're playing a show or if we see each other at a show or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. He used to write music reviews. I used to always look forward to his reviews because he was so hardcore about it. He was
Oh
just
yeah,
like he was totally like, totally orthodox. Satan, nails, chains. That was him. I loved it.
yeah. Mike definitely has a unique perspective on the world.
Yeah, he's not going to come and talk about the latest Pink album. Like he's
No,
no,
no.
he's a true motherfucker. He really is. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was loving I always like to check out everybody's merch. You were the only ones I've seen that had candles. That was a different one.
Yes.
It's a great idea, actually.
That's so
Yeah.
sweet.
I have one right here actually.
I love that. And I love it's like the religious candles you see in like the Latin grocery stores. That's so cool. Yeah.
Oh yes, the prayer candles or the faith candles or whatever they call them.
Right.
So are we ever gonna see a Goatwhore beer?
I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. We just, the thing is with us collectively as a group, we're not a big hoppy type of fancy foofy beer kind of fan.
Okay.
If we came out with a beer, it would probably be pretty plain to a lot of people, because like the fanciest I get is like Amstel Light. That's my favorite.
Gotcha.
And nobody in the band's drinking any kind of weird IPAs or anything like that. So if we did come up with a beer, it would probably be pretty. People would be like, this is just kind of boring.
Yeah. Yeah, the merch is really interesting. I mean, like the guys that were in Massacre, they have a new band that they formed. It's two of the players called Inhuman Condition, right?
Yeah.
And it's very Massacre-esque. It's great. But one of their merch items is conditioner. Inhuman conditioner, like hair conditioner. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this product.
I mean,
death metal conditioner.
I'm a big fan of being able to slap your name on anything, and if somebody's going to buy it.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that. So, I mean, if they did a conditioner and they're selling it, more power to them.
Yeah.
And a shower curtain.
Oh, they did? Yeah. Oh, I didn't see that. Okay.
That's
very creative.
That's a great idea. Shower curtains.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember that one.
How about a Goatwhore bath mat? I think that would be good.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've seen those on Wish. Because I'm serious. You know what the website I'm talking about? Where they have all like the cheap Chinese stuff.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
They make like every knockoffs of everything.
Yeah.
I think I was searching for like a Baphomet bath mat, and I stumbled across a Goatwhore bathroom set.
Look at
Wow.
Yeah.
You know
Not
what's really good is Etsy has like a whole shops now because I've gotten him a bunch of stuff. You'd be surprised.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm a big fan of Etsy. Trust me.
Yeah, there's one band we like. They have a song called "The Grind," and they did coffee. And for me, I was thinking, well, I would drink it right away because we were like coffee fanatics. But with merch, I want something that I can put on the shelf. The coffee, I wouldn't be able to leave it alone.
Well, I mean, you drink the coffee, then you frame the bag.
Frame the bag. I guess you're right. You could just take the bag.
That'd be awesome.
I guess that's what we do. Yeah.
But we love you guys. We'll look forward to. You're just doing a European tour? What happens after that?
We are hopefully going to do a U.S. tour, which is being worked on as we speak. Something that'll be probably a couple of U.S. tours, I'm hoping. But next year should be really busy for Goatwhore.
It's great. If you come to Philly or Baltimore, we'll be there. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The sounds of decay!
Okay, Sounds of Decay time. I will let my beautiful wife kick this off. Go right ahead.
This is a very different band called Blackbait. This is a very different band for our Sounds of Decay, Black Braid.
Hmm.
I was already thinking about the word Adirondack and not screwing that up, so I screwed up Black Braid. They're out of New York, obviously. They are brand new for 2022. Black metal fans that are familiar with the mysticism and communion with nature. This is found in the niche corner of heavy music. This guy is actually Native American in his roots. These qualities are deeply relevant and congruent with the lore of everything Native American. In fact, much of what is often dubbed
Pagan black metal. Yeah.
In fact, much of what is often dubbed pagan black metal is drenched in the forest, the mountains, wildlife, nature shows, but everything is, performing like, think of the black metal band in the forest. You add the gothy, corpse paint, face paint, his warrior aesthetic, and Black Braid's expression of black metal is perfectly at home among Native American art and legacy. This is a one-man band, and I don't know how to say his name.
His name's John.
But it's like Shiraz.
Native American phrase means the witch hawk.
Yeah, that's the translation.
His name's John.
So yeah, it's a super long one, but the pictures of him are just amazing.
Tell you what, of all the Sounds of Decay we had this week, I've listened to this the most because it's got there's a lot of Inquisition. There's a lot of Inquisition influence here. He's mastered Dagon's ringing arpeggios. So anything that sounds like Inquisition is going to capture my attention. I love that band. So
And
what song are we going to play?
We're going to play a song called The River of Time Flows Through Me.
Okay. Okay, I was really excited about this one. The band is called Spider, not Spider, Spiter with a T.
Yeah.
And they're from Philadelphia.
Not like the arachnid.
Yeah, they play a sort of black metal / crust punk.
Also new for 2022.
Yes. 3-piece band. You have Bat, who is actually Francis Cano from Devilmaster. Snake, just Snake, on the bass. And then on drums, you have Richard Spider, who is actually Richard Benson from Shitfucker. So the album is called Bathe the Babe in Bat's Blood. There's quite a few B's there. And just check out this artwork. Look at this.
An alliteration.
I almost broke my fingers trying to find vinyl of this, but it's not available yet. So this is actually their second album. They had an EP out in 2021 called Draconian Death Curse. So this is highly theatrical, kind of gritty crust / black metal. It kind of reminds me of Jism, kind of reminds me of Children of Technology. If you're into that sort of vein, maybe Raw Power from Italy. There's some very cool leads too, that there's actually guitar leads in this that you don't normally get in this type of music. So like I said, there's no vinyl, but the CD is about $10 and you can do the download off their Bandcamp page for $6.66. How familiar.
Look at that.
Yes, how familiar. Of course, first subscribe to us before you do that. But anyway, goes without saying. So I guess we're going to play a song now.
All right, so let's play a song so you guys can experience this wonderful alliteration. LP, Bathe in the Bat's Blood. That's hard to say. Bathe the babe in the bat's blood. Now say that 4 times fast. Anyway, this is a great song. Suicidal Bloodfucker.
We want vinyl. Okay, our final Sounds of Decay this week is, like I teased earlier, New York's Imperial Triumphant. This outfit has been producing quality avant black metal for decades.
They like to represent the sounds of New York City, and they try to capture everything from the luxury top floor to the gritty, nasty, gross underground.
Always a challenging listen, but a rewarding one. This has been out for a while, but I've been digesting it. It always takes me a few months to get an Imperial Triumphant record kind of digested. They've always been, like Stace mentioned, very New York City driven. They write songs about the classic architecture of the city, the history of the city, that sort of thing. They're sort of like what happened after the N Records. The N Records was a pivotal label in extreme metal in the early 2000s. And you started to see death metal with tubas. You started to see people incorporating different jazz type instruments in with
Saxophone.
in with the black metal and the death metal. So Imperial Triumphant is true to form, long songs, woodwind segments, cellos, lots of unusual instrumentation. The last album actually had like a barbershop quartet party.
Wow.
It was a song called Atomic Age. And that fit into that. I think it was supposed to be kind of like a 1930s New York City theme or some kind. Very cool stuff. Plus, there's the visual factor. I mean, check out these masks that the band wears when they perform. It's kind of like Gaera does. You know,
They have to have air conditioning units in those.
strap this brass plate to your face. Anyway, so the newest album is called Spirit of Ecstasy, which is named after a Rolls-Royce hood ornament. Interesting. You can only get this information from us people.
Nosferatu and Joe Hill drove a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
That the vampire figure, an old Rolls Royce.
Did you know that when you have a Rolls Royce, you don't get you don't get a key to the hood. You don't get it. You're not allowed to go in there. You got to bring it in. You're not qualified. Yeah, seriously. Important note: the song we're going to play is called "Mercurius Gilded." And there is a saxophone solo, I shit you not. Kenny G, dentist office Kenny G, plays on this song. Kenny G's son used to be in Imperial Triumphant, so they invited him for a collaboration. So when you hear the saxophone duel at the end of the song, that's Kenny G.
Yeah, I love their artwork. They have a really cool tour shirt, kind of with a skull, and it looks like he's wearing New York City with all the buildings as a hat around his.
Well, that
top
is
of his
cool.
head.
Yeah.
Really neat looking.
So here it is, Kenny G with Mercurius Gilded.
Who knew?
Oh dear. It would appear we are out of time.
The spell has been broken.
I think that thing was done.
The
half an
dog
hour
is
ago.
asleep.
Yeah. A lot of material on this show, yeah. I think we covered every sign that's ever been made that we can ignore.
Possibly every food joke we've ever thought of.
How many food jokes are these two going to do? It's all about consistency, people. It's all about quantity.
We got to talk to Sammy from Goatwhore.
We did, yes.
Absolute treat.
A little bit of a Uli John Roth geek out in that one. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. What else did we talk about? I got to show off a absolutely stunning vinyl double record set.
Which we will have good close-ups of.
Yes, we will.
They'll be so close up you'll see Mark's nose hair, so you just wait.
We talked about the criminally communist system that Catholic schools used with goodie tags. I'm still getting over it.
And state-of-the-art or non-state-of-the-art GPSs as they relate to Mark's music reviews, which can be found on our Instagram pages. Go check them out.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there eventually. Just hang in there. Hey, where are you going? I wrote that in a review one time. Actually, it was halfway through and I said, hey, stop. Where are you going? Come back and finish reading this. Anyway, so who's going to read the end?
Is it my turn?
Yep.
I bonked you last time.
Okay.
This has been the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast. Sammy from Goatwhore appears courtesy of Earsplit PR. Snaggletooth theme courtesy of Gustav Jord of Defleshed. Long live Heads on Spikes and Grind to Matter. Sounds of Decay theme courtesy of Steve Rathbone from Lair of the Minotaur. Deaf Ears bands include Imperial Triumphant, Spider, Black Braid. All content 2022. The Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast.
I'm giving her the world.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.